Welcome in episode number 48. We took a week off to get situated, but we're back. We'll give you our week in review for games that happened last week. We'll give you our preview for games happening this week. Big Red River rivalry episode coming at you, big and fat. We'll tell you who's drinking the Kool-Aid and all of it. And we'll give you our picks as we continue to win you money here in the St0ner Sports Book and here on St0ner Sports Radio Podcast. Joining me once again is my friend and co-host Zach Huffman. How are we doing this Thursday before Red River rivalry action?
I mean, you know what week it is.
It's that week.
And I only got two. I got 2 words.
Oh boy.
Actually, I got 4 words. 2 sentences. 1, Texas sucks. And 2, fuck Texas. It's fuck Texas week, everybody. I want everybody to know it's Red River shootout. OU is winning this game 100-0.
Ah, there you go. There it is. There it is. Don't even bet the over.
Bet the over. Boomer Sooner, everybody. Horns are down this week. They're down. Give it to me, Will.
They're
Give
down.
it to me.
They're down. They're
down.
Look, I'm not even an OU fan, and I hate Texas. Okay, let's just. It is what it is. Okay, it's just a mutual hate for a team that wears one of the ugliest jersey colors you'll know to man. Sure, they've got some good players, but I think they might be clinging on to last year just a little too hard. Before we get into any of that, let's go over last week, right? So you were gone, you were out of town. I didn't feel like sweating it out alone. I did give picks out on the Twitter. If you're not following on the Twitter, follow the Twitter. Went 5-1. I'm not going to put that really towards the overall record between you and me because, not kind of fair. You didn't make any picks. So, not really fair to have a 5-game lead on you for no reason. So I'll take the personal W. I'll take ownership for that. I did have one of my picks fall through. It was a South Carolina pick. We'll talk about that here in a minute as Tennessee just kind of pulled away there at the end. I really, really thought that Spencer Rattler could keep those Gamecocks in there, but apparently not 12 points within reach. So that was kind of rough, but everything else kind of panned out the way it's supposed to. Let's get started here. There was a big game happening in the Pac-12, right, Zach? We had Oregon State and Utah. Utah takes their first L of the season. Again, we haven't seen Cam Rising all year long. Oregon State got up 14-0, and Utah just couldn't get the offense going. And I was saying going into this week, I thought that, and this was obviously not on an episode, but saying in my personal life and socially, I was saying Utah's got to be one of the deepest teams in the country if they keep winning these games without Cam Rising, right? Because that just has depth written all over. Like, that's scary depth, and mainly defensive depth, right? Because A, your defense is on the field a ton because you're not scoring, and B, it just is a testament to what kind of culture Utah has built over winning in the Pac-12 and kind of what they bring to the next conference that they're going to be in. But it just wasn't meant to be. They just couldn't get it done against a very talented Oregon State team. What are your thoughts on the Beavers getting a much-needed win over a top 10 team?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to talk about the Beavers. They look good. They look good. They look like a team that if I was Oregon, I'd be a little nervous about.
No, we're nervous every year. It doesn't even matter if they're good. It's kind of like OU and OSU. Like to a degree, a little bit more competitive, obviously. But I feel
more.
But that game you can go in with a team that's like 3-8 or whatever, and Oregon State has still beat us under those circumstances and ruined our chances at national title hopes before because they're the last game of the year. So yeah, they're good, and yeah, we know that.
Yeah, but Oregon State looks really good. I think that they're kind of a little threat to look out for, kind of in the Pac-12, just one of those under the radar teams. But Utah, obviously, I was very high on Utah coming out in the preseason. I thought Utah was going to win like 10 games, I think is what I said. I still think Utah's a really good team, and I do think they're extremely deep. Problem is they're not as deep at the quarterback position, and they're missing Cam Rising. So it's a little tough for you. It's a little tough to win games without your starting quarterback. they've done a good job of doing it this year. I don't know when he's supposed to come back. Um,
It was
like
it, it's supposed to be like a
if
week to week basis thing. It just seems like
that's what I'm saying. Like,
he's
is he
just
coming
yeah
back? What's so we know when he comes back, I think that Utah, while they won't finish as a 10-win team because of his injury, um, when he comes back slash if he comes back, they will play like a 10-win team. And I think if they sneak into that Pac-12 championship, that they have a chance to win it again. And as much, I don't hate Oregon. I don't want Oregon to fail or anything, but I like when Utah wins the Pac-12 because it means that I know that USC won't get into the
yeah
playoff.
yeah
And it means that they probably beat USC twice to do that. So, I'm big on Utah. I've been in love with Utah the last year, especially because of what they did to USC. So I'm hoping that he comes back and they start winning a couple more games. But Oregon State is a good team. You don't hang your head about that one. And I think that Oregon State, deservedly so, should be a top 15 team in this next rankings at least.
yeah. I mean
I don't know
this
what they are this week,
um
but
I could tell you. I'll tell you real quick. This is one of those games, right, where you just kind of felt like eventually not having Cam Rising was going to catch up to Utah, and I thought that was going to be last week against UCLA. They barely won that game, 14-7. I really thought that
mhm.
was kind of one of those where they could have slipped up and fallen. Right now,
But it's that defense.
Oregon State is 15 right now. So right,
Look
yeah,
at me.
right on,
Look
right.
at
Look
me.
at you. Look at you. You felt it in your bones. Yeah,
They need to give me a vote. I've been telling
yeah,
them.
they
They need to
jump
give me a vote.
they jump 4 spots. Um, but I think that, like you said, I think this is kind of more about Oregon State, right? This is more about them prepping. And the one thing I do want to
Yeah.
say is you don't need Utah to win the Pac-12, right? You just need USC to lose to
Mhm.
Notre Dame and to lose to Utah, and I'm fine because I'm going to the Pac-12 championship, and then I'll get to beat USC.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm happy with
I mean,
Oregon winning.
and
I have no problem with
and
Oregon
and I
winning it.
think this kind of makes so obviously Oregon State lost to Washington State, right? And that was kind of
Mhm.
their first L. But I still feel like those teams are pretty even to me. Like I don't feel like
Oh, yeah.
even though Washington State kind of won that thing, in what you would probably consider dominant fashion by the scoreboard, I think that was more of just I don't know. I mean, is Washington State right is an underdog this week against UCLA, which is crazy to me. I know that
And
that's a
insane.
road game, but I don't know if Vegas just hates Washington State. I think that
They know something.
they know something. But right now I'm looking at that line right now. In the Washington State UCLA line is still UCLA minus 3.5. So I mean,
Jeez.
it's very tempting for me to slam the Cougars here. I know they're traveling down there, and I know it's a really tough environment. Chip Kelly's going to have those boys ready, but I just don't think that Dante Moore and company is going to be able to really do anything about that. But all I'm saying is relevancy rise. Oregon State is a good team, and I think that good is probably as accolade worthy a word as I can give them this year. I don't think they're going to be great. I think good is
Mhm.
probably where you stop that train.
Yeah, they'll be good. They'll play in late December.
Yeah.
And we'll see them play in a decent bowl game.
Yes.
But I think that especially that Washington State ranking and how I don't know why they're not favored against UCLA. That's insane. But I think it speaks volumes to how good the Pac-12 is this
Right.
year.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Last year,
Pac-12
make
is
it. Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
I would
Last
say
year,
that
make it
right
worth
now,
it. Yeah.
right now, besides maybe the Big Ten, I think the Pac-12 is the best conference in football.
I mean, look. I would have a hard time saying they're not the top right now, just because of
Yeah, it's
what
like
they've
them or Big
got.
Ten.
I mean, it's obviously not the Big 12 because they're top heavy with Texas and
Yeah,
OU, and I think everybody else is just kind of eh.
yeah.
Big Ten. I think you
There's a reason
have.
everyone's talking about the weak schedules of those two
Yeah,
teams.
I think Big Ten. I think I mean, Michigan, Ohio State still kind of top heavy. I mean, who else you throwing in there? I mean,
Penn State,
yeah,
Penn State.
until they lose to one of those two teams, if not both of those teams, I think that you would say that's three good teams. Pac-12 has like five right now, five or six.
Yeah.
I mean, they are stacked. They've got Washington State, Oregon State, Utah still, and USC. I mean,
Mhm.
that's six teams that are ranked. I mean, I just don't.
Yeah,
I have a hard time
it's
saying
really
that
good.
they aren't the best team right now. I think they are the best team
My only
or the best
problem
conference. Sorry,
my only problem is that, the Big Ten top is much heavier than the Pac-12 top,
I'll give you
and
that.
what I mean by that is
I'll give
that
you that.
Michigan and Ohio State are just much better than any team in the Pac-12 right now.
I
Maybe not
mean,
Ohio State, maybe not Ohio State because I think
I feel like
Honestly, I think Oregon could beat
yeah, I feel
Ohio
like the
State,
Ducks could slap
but
them around again. Um,
I think the Ducks could beat Ohio State, but no one's touching Michigan in the Pac-12. So
yeah, I can,
that
I
that's my
can't,
own. That's the only
I
reason.
can't disagree with that as much as I want to. And speaking of the Ducks, I mean, Stanford's always a tough hurdle, right? I mean, we know the history between
Yeah.
Oregon and Stanford got up 6-0 in this game. And as I was sitting in the stands watching OU and Iowa State trade blows early in that
Hmm.
game, I was watching that ticker and I was going, man, I was like 6-0, like that's not good. That means the offense is bad. And then of course, the second quarter happened and the rest was history. 42-6, your final, 42 unanswered. The Ducks get rolling. Bo Nix takes a quarter off before he gets started, but ends up throwing for
Kind of a great
290
team.
and four touchdowns. And good teams, great teams cover. I didn't choose them to cover, but they did cover the 27 easily. If you did bet that, I did not have that on my list, but that was one of those I was concerned about because you just never know with Stanford. I mean, they're definitely better than advertised as far as being competitive. They're 1-4 and 0-3 in the Pac-12, which doesn't look good on paper. But this is not a Stanford team you're just gonna breeze by. I mean, you're gonna have
No.
a tough first half at least. I mean, you're gonna have to take some time. But I don't really think I learned anything other than it was a game we needed to win. We won that game. Got to move on to this bye week and rest up before playing USC or sorry Washington. Excuse me, before we play Washington, which will be probably must watch television for me. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you have really anything to add to that conversation, so I'll get to a game that you do have something to add, which is Oklahoma, right? This game going into halftime was, uh, you know, 38 to 30, sorry, it was 40-20 going into half, but at one point that game
Yeah.
was 21-20. And
Hmm.
I was kind of sweating a little bit going, you know, boy, this Iowa State team has got some ballers, and OU has got some busted coverages that just left guys wide open, and they're going to need to seal that up for this week. But in the end, a 30-point victory is a 30-point victory. Jackson Arnold taking snaps in the fourth, moving the football, doing things you would expect your second team to do. They only scored 10 points in the second half, but you only really needed to, and you shut them out in the second half as
Yeah.
well. What were your takeaways from the OU victory against Iowa State this last week?
So I'm not proud of what I said in the first half of that game when I was watching it. I'll just put it that way. um, I went home, watched the game with my family. My family's all OU fans, right? So I'm watching it with my grandma and my dad and huge OU fans. We're all standing up. I definitely had a few in that game. Um, and that especially in that first half, just to calm the nerves a little bit after what I was witnessing. I was saying I was up, I was cussing, I was doing a lot of bad things. But that second half, we were all on the couch very calm, and I think that's something that great teams are able to do. Is sure. First half didn't look great. Into the second quarter, we just kind of pulled away a little bit, doubled up their 20, which is what I wanted to see. Um, and then that second half came around and we played like the team that we were supposed to play like. We played like we were gonna run the ball, get this time of possession up, make sure they don't have a lot of opportunities to touch it, shut them out, score 10 points, win by 30. And that's something that great teams do. And it's something that I would say about that Oregon game as well is that they like were able to pull away in that second half and that's especially that second quarter. And that just kind of shows good teams or great teams are going to make the adjustments they need to make that score at the end of the game look like it's supposed to look like.
Yeah,
No
the
matter.
Oregon game was 14-6 at halftime. So really, it was just that second
Exactly.
half. So I mean, because that was still a one possession game at halftime, was not feeling great because I was like, they scored and they got a 2-point conversion. I mean, we're tied up, baby. I mean, that was
Exactly.
that was my fear, but they didn't let it happen, and that's the same with OU. They didn't let Iowa State gain enough confidence to really do anything in that second half, and the defense really showed up. And I think that people
Mhm.
really are underestimating how good this defense is. A couple blown plays, which is what I'll call it. It's just a couple blown plays. The first one you had a guy go for a pick and he missed. I mean, the ball went 3 feet over his
Yeah,
head. He just
we gotta be better
overestimated
about
how
that.
tall that pass was and went for the pick, and
We
then
gotta
there was
stop
no one
ball
behind
hawking
him.
like that.
Yeah, but and
We gotta
after that
stop
and
ball
after
hawking
that
like that. That's
first
my
play,
thing.
because remember the first play was a pick six. The first play from scrimmage was a pick six, and I think that kind of
Yeah.
relaxed the defense enough to where they thought they were like, this is going to be easy, and it wasn't. And I think that was
Yeah.
part of the problem too, was they were overconfident. They're like, oh, Pick six on the first play, fuck them. They're easy. We're just going to roll over these dudes. And Iowa State said, no, you're not going to roll over us. But they pulled out every single stop they had to get those 20 points. You look at the plays they ran, you look at the trickeration they tried at times. They were desperate for points. It wasn't like this was going to be easy. They went the route of, we haven't shown these plays to any other team this year. Let's try this team. And it worked out a couple times. And is that concerning going into this week? Yeah, you want to probably shore up that and tell your guys, hey, like, you're going to be super amped. Like, you think you were amped after that pick, you're going to be super amped just walking into this stadium, just taking in the whole entire atmosphere. You're going to be jumping out of your shoes, and I guarantee you that if OU wins a toss, they're going to defer, so the defense is going to be on the field first. So they have to be prepared to just make sure everything is in front of them, and if they can shore that up, I would feel a lot better as an OU fan if I was one, and I think you would feel the same way. I think this team just needs to be able to take this as more of a business venture than a fun atmosphere to be in. Don't get caught up in the pageantry and go to work. And I think that you
Mhm.
have to treat every drive Texas has as this is you know a drive where we need to get a stop. Like I don't think that there's any room to be like, oh, let's see what they're doing here. I think you have to have a stern plan, and I think that started in that second half of that Iowa State game, and it has to carry over into this week, and that's kind of my takeaway. Other than this, here's the other thing: is there's no running game, Zach. There's no running game from OU this season, and I don't
Yeah.
think there's anybody in the stables that's going to save them, and that's concerning. Not to say that being one dimensional is terrible, but we saw those deep balls Dylan Gabriel threw. They were underthrown. We know he doesn't have a cannon. This isn't Baker Mayfield
Mhm.
back here being able to throw 67-yard passes with ease. The guy short arms it, and luckily for him, he's got a slew of what we think is think about this, Zach. Coming into the season, we were hype on these running backs, right? Like, we thought these running backs were going to carry this team, and we didn't know anything about the wide receivers. Ends up the wide receivers are the best part of the fucking offense. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the part. And they came back to those balls, they caught those balls, and made Dylan Gabriel look good. And I'm telling you one thing and one thing, that would not have happened last year. That would not have happened with the wide receivers you had last year, as good as they may have been. They did not have the presence of mind to come back to the ball. They did not know him well enough to know that this is probably going to be short. So sure enough, the DBs overrun the ball. Boom, wide receiver comes back and catches these balls and sets up the Sooners for red zone opportunities, which they cashed in on. So I think that's another thing to take away is these receivers are for real, and it's going to be hell for this Texas secondary.
Yeah, and I like that you pointed out Dylan Gabriel's kind of missed throws there. They were very obvious. They were obvious last year in a lot of places, but now they weren't as obvious in the beginning of this year. But seeing the Iowa State game, especially that first half, you see a lot more of those Dylan Gabriel overthrows in short situations and underthrows in those deep ball situations. And I think that you're right that the receivers have kind of learned how to, kind of deal with that, especially the underthrows on the deep balls. Um, but one thing that I'm gonna say going into this Texas week is that, I mean, he can't be doing that and against Texas. He can't underthrow those balls as much as he normally does because those Texas DBs are going to come back with the receivers. And he can't overthrow them as much either because we need every chance we can get to get downfield. So Dylan Gabriel has to. I think Joel Klatt kind of nailed it on the head in some of his discussions on the Red River shoot. I'm not gonna say I agree with everything he said, but
Yeah, we'll talk
um
about that when we get into
yeah,
this
but
week's
he was definitely correct that OU, especially the offense, has to play at its absolute best to beat Texas this week. They can't have too many mistakes. They can't have more than, 3 points worth of mistakes against this Texas defense because that offense over there in Texas is not going to make those kind of mistakes. I think the OU defense is good enough to force a couple of mistakes. I think the OU defense is good enough to hold Texas below 35 points, but can the offense score more than that? That's the real question going into this game. I don't think it's a question of our defense at all. I think it's 100% can the offense figure it out and will a running back break out this game to show me why they deserve to be the definite running back one?
Yeah,
I
we'll
don't I
see.
don't if that doesn't
Yeah.
happen this week, we lose.
Yeah, we'll dive into that a little bit deeper when we get into next week's games, but it's definitely something to mark on the that to mark for later discussion to get more in depth here in a minute. Um, Another big kind of shocking game that I really was hoping was going to happen. Auburn really hung in there with Georgia, 27-20.
Yeah,
Georgia
I was watching that
escapes.
one.
It was really the quarterback to tight end combo that Georgia used to really escape that situation. I mean, I've said it. I've been a huge advocate for tight ends in the passing game for years. I think it's an underutilized position. I think nowadays it's more utilized because obviously offenses have progressed to more passing than running. So that has been kind of just a side effect, is the tight end is getting used more in the passing game. But that was really the escape route for them. And I'm gonna be honest, Zach, I didn't believe in Georgia coming into this season as much as a lot of people did. This didn't really help people that believed in Georgia's cause right here, because they're on the cusp, brother. They are on the cusp
Yep.
of this boat tipping. And again, we were saying this last year with the Missouri game, the same kind of week that they're not that great, and then the next week against Kentucky again, escaping. It's and then the rest is history, and we know how bad they just beat the living tar out of TCU. But I mean, I think that we cannot allow Georgia to keep making these kind of mistakes. I mean, they have to be
Yeah.
able to be dominant in games against teams that they should be better than. You can't have Peyton Thorne, who threw for 87 yards and ran for 92, be a guy that endangers your chance of going undefeated in the SEC. You can't let that happen. And obviously, last year they didn't let it happen with Missouri and Kentucky. I'll give them that, right? Like, I can't sit here and be a hypocrite and be like, well, it's happening this year. I just don't know if this is just something they do in October, where it's like, oh, they just kind of, they lollygag through October against these lesser opponents, and then here comes November, they ramp back up again. I don't know if that's just a thing. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Um, I think I mostly agree there that they could ramp up in October, but the problem the problem with Georgia that I see this year is that they look like a team who is going to lose in the SEC championship, and they look like a team who's still going to be ranked number 3 after that, but they're even more one-dimensional than OU is right now, if we're being honest, because that Georgia offense, their defense is always going to be good. That's never
Yeah,
gonna be that big of a question. Georgia's defense is always going to be good, and it will be good for the entirety of Kirby Smart's career. That's just gonna happen. It's the problem, that I'm seeing is that their offense, they're reliant on that tight end, Brock Bowers. They are reliant on that man. He carried that team, especially in the 3rd quarter against Auburn. He is the only reason they won that game.
100%.
So, I mean, what do they do if he goes down? I don't know. What do they do next year when he gets drafted top 10? I don't know.
It's a cliff.
Like,
It's a cliff. They're heading towards
is
the
it
edge of a
a cliff?
cliff.
Is it a cliff, or
It's a big
is it one
hill.
of those
It's a big hill.
opportunities similar to, like, I mean, Kirby Smart's
I
obviously
Okay.
taken that Nick Saban
This is.
career path.
I'm
Like,
gonna
is it similar to Nick Saban in those couple of
I'm gonna
years
I'm
that
gonna
he
say
was
this.
down at Alabama?
I'm gonna say this, and you can read me for this, but I see Georgia next year being what OU was last year.
I don't agree with that.
I
I think
I
it's
that's
here
that's where they're headed.
'cause
That's where they're headed.
the reason OU was like what they were last year was because of a major coaching change and the huge amount of, like, transfers that
I'm just
just got
saying record
sucked out
wise.
of
I'm
OU,
just
right?
saying record wise. I don't
You
care
think
about
that
the
you think
situation.
but my thing is, what is going to happen at Georgia that causes them to ever fall below 9
I
wins?
don't think
I
they can
don't think
hang.
anything happens.
Their NIL is trash. I'll just say it, their NIL is trash. They
Their
had
NIL is gonna be fine. Over there in
they
Atlanta,
nah, no. Listen. Carson Beck is not him. Okay, they're gonna keep him at quarterback next year. He's not him. That's gonna be the first exposed thing. Without Brock Bowers, if you don't get another good couple wide receivers in the portal, you're screwed. Like I think that, like you said, the defense is gonna be fine. It's the offense for Georgia that's gonna suffer after this season, because you have so many guys that are gonna leave, right? And so many vital guys that are gonna leave. I mean, this is probably an 8 or 9 win team next year. I don't think that Georgia has the sustainability. I think that Alabama will be on the rise after the way they finish this season. If everything goes to script, like we said, I think that they will be back in the driver's seat, and I think that will affect Georgia. Now, 9 wins isn't bad. I could see 10, but I'm saying they're not going to be in the hunt for the playoff next year. I don't see that happening. Now, the 12-team playoff makes a completely different change after next year. I think that kind of opens the doors for teams like Georgia to be very much in the thick of it. No matter what really happens, you could lose 3 games and still make the playoffs in that scenario. So I don't think that really closes the door. But as far as next year specifically, I don't see them being a top 4 team at the end of the season. You could say that they could be good, but I just don't see them. And this year it may be the same thing. I mean, like you said, they could lose in the SEC championship game, and I think they'll lose probably one game before that. I don't know which one it is, but I mean, if I'm looking right now, which I'm looking, where do I see the loss at besides the SEC championship game? I mean, watch out for Missouri. Watch out for Florida. I mean, they've got fucking Kentucky this week. That's not going to be easy. This is if you play as bad as you did against Auburn against Kentucky, you're losing. Okay, Mark Stoops is gonna get your goat. If you play bad against Florida, we saw what happened to Tennessee this last week. It could happen to you. I don't know how it happened. I don't want to talk. We're gonna talk about it, but I'm not looking forward to that discussion. But I mean, Florida apparently can come up and bite you if you're not careful. And God forbid if you lose. I mean, and you have Missouri and Ole Miss and Tennessee to end the year. Just a death streak to end the year. They're dropping one of those. There's no way that this team is not last year's team. They're dropping one of those. Yeah, I mean,
Let me ask you a question. So, as an Oregon fan, have have you ever had a and let's say the last 20 years, have you ever had a coach at Oregon that you just have 100% faith in,
no,
no matter what the roster looks like? Like you
no,
think that coach is going to win 8 games no
no.
matter what?
Oregon's never had that guy. Chip Kelly was
All
close,
right.
but Chip Kelly was
So
close. But the
so
thing about Chip is the defense was always just trash.
yeah. So what I'm trying to get at here is, as an OU fan, I had that with Bob Stoops, right?
Yeah,
Like I knew that he was going to win some games, and whenever he stopped winning those games is when he would step down, which is what he did.
yeah,
Um, that's what Georgia has with Kirby Smart. Just
yeah,
to like, I recognize it from here. That is full faith in the coach,
yeah.
and I also, as not a Georgia fan, not even close to a Georgia fan. In fact, I hate Georgia, for a lot of reasons, especially going back to 2017. But um, Kirby Smart, I believe in him. I don't think there's any season he wins below 8 games. I think he's probably a perennial 10,
That's what
or not 10 win, but nine
that's what I'm
win
saying.
coach.
Like I'm not
So
disagreeing with that at
I
all.
think I just think he finds a way to win those games you're talking about. He's gonna win. He's gonna beat Kentucky. He's
Yeah,
gonna
I
beat Florida. They're
Kentucky.
definitely gonna beat Missouri. Like it's just gonna happen.
Yeah,
And they're like I said at the beginning of this, before this season even started, they're gonna be 12-0, and they're gonna lose in that SEC championship to Alabama because the only way that Georgia loses is when they get out coached.
but they're
That's
good,
just that
but
simple.
they're gonna have to be like that's what I'm saying. Like I said, October for them seems to be the month where they just don't play up to snuff. The rest of those
Yeah,
games are not in October. So that's what I'm saying is like,
it's
yeah,
because of
sure, they.
Kirby.
That's what I'm saying. Like they're probably going to win those games, but I'm just saying it's
You
gonna
watch that halftime speech.
it's gonna have to be perfect. It's gonna have to be perfect. They cannot play like they did last week. That's all I'm saying. They just can't have a repeat. Other teams are way too talented. They're way more talented than Auburn to be making the mistakes. And even South Carolina had them for a half. I mean, these are teams you have to be able to put away, is what I'm saying. And and they
Yeah.
and in the end, like you see the final score, and it's like, okay, like South Carolina, like you did it, like you did the thing. Um, with Auburn, it was a little rusty, and you had to really use your safety valve for like to escape. 157 yards and a touchdown is not going to happen for your tight end against these other teams. I'm just letting you know that right now. I mean, even if he's the only guy catching passes, I don't see him getting 157 yards against any of these other defenses. Maybe Missouri's, but I mean, like I just don't see how they can repeat these actions they had in these last couple of games and escape some of these teams that like Missouri and Florida and Ole Miss, right? If you start the game like the South Carolina game, like South Carolina should have been up probably 28-0 in that game, right? But 14-0 at halftime, right? Those other teams will be up 20 plus in those situations. And I don't know if this Georgia team is built to battle back from 20 plus. 2 possessions, maybe. 17 points, maybe. 20 points, I'll believe it. But you get past that 20-point mark, I just don't see this team being able to come back. And I feel like these teams are teams that they're going up against that can create those kind of holes early if they don't start off on the right foot. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Like their offense is extremely shaky, and they do have to rely on Brock Bowers there a lot. Um, However, I think the defense is good enough. The only way that Georgia loses is if the defense makes mistakes like they were making against Auburn. Um, Luckily, I think that they're well coached enough that they're going to make those adjustments. They're going to
Yeah.
make sure that
But
they
you can
win that
see the
second half.
NFL draft drop off. Like they lost a lot of good guys
Yeah,
in the draft, and you can tell.
think I think that we're I think I might have you've kind of convinced me that I think that you're right, that we're probably not talking about Georgia being in the SEC championship next year, right? I'm thinking we probably are if I'm a betting man, I'm putting my money on Alabama and my boy Josh Heupel over there in Tennessee.
Oh, okay. Okay. I like that.
Um if we were putting money on it, I think Tennessee would be a team to put money on in the SEC next year.
Yeah.
Um That being said, I mean, we don't need to go into the SEC next year because there's
No,
a
no,
whole
no.
'nother slate of teams I think could win the SEC
Yeah.
coming in next year.
But
But,
as far as this game goes, it didn't look great, and I think a win's a win, and you got to put that in the driver's seat because again, like I was saying last year, we were saying the same thing when it came to Missouri and Kentucky, like oh that's kind of scary,
yeah,
but in the end it didn't matter, and I think that
it
sure
didn't.
I can dwell on this and say oh look at that, but it does I mean a win's a win, and you can't take that away from them. So good for Georgia for
I think
surviving, um, but yeah,
I think that we need to also take seriously what Kirby Smart said in that presser, that he's not 100% accurate. There are some teams that are iffy in the SEC, but a lot of those teams in the SEC are better than most other teams in other conferences. We
I'll
gotta
give you that.
remember that. Like,
Yeah, I'll
right
give you that.
now, as much as it pains me to say it, Missouri's like a top 4 team in the Big Ten.
Oh,
Like, like, that's the
they're probably the
problem.
third best team in the Big 12. I mean,
That's the bit they are. They
yeah,
literally are the 3rd best
they're
team in the
probably
Big
the
12. So, like,
fourth or fifth best team in the Pac-12, and they're probably the third or fourth best team in the ACC as well, if you don't include
it
Notre
proves
Dame in
that
it.
the SEC is so deep that
It
I
is.
think Georgia can afford to have some of these closer games because of who
Yeah,
they play.
yeah.
I mean, I know that
I
we like
mean,
to talk about
yeah,
Georgia having a
yeah,
cupcake schedule, but Missouri, those teams that play Georgia every year, they get better by playing Georgia
yeah.
every year,
True.
and they're gonna keep getting better every year that they play Georgia. So I expect that the SEC, especially with OU and Texas coming in, the SEC and all those teams are about to elevate. We're about to see them probably take any at-large bid to the playoff is probably going to be an SEC team.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Let's be real. Let's get
yeah,
through a couple of the other ones real quickly. Penn State, they were tied at 10 at the half with Northwestern. They end up pulling out the win 41-13. So another team that struggled in the first half that found their footing in the second half. A lot of these top tier teams did that. We went over that. Um, Washington, another team that had to escape Arizona. Are we really sleeping on the Wildcats here? They might be decent. That
they
game
might
was
be.
that game was close throughout. 31-24 your final. Washington State gets it done in the waning moments I mean to be honest it was 24-28 and Washington kicked a field goal and Arizona couldn't find anything on offense in the fourth quarter besides that one touchdown they had to cut it to 4. So I mean it was scarier on the scoreboard than it really was if you were there. But again, another team that's in the top 10 that squeaks by. USC again, almost a second half collapse against Colorado. They were up huge, end up winning that game 48-41. Um, Anything you want to say about that game, or should we just move
No,
on?
you know I got something to say about that game. You know I got something to say about that game because I mean, and I don't have too much to say
Yeah,
besides one.
yeah,
I mean, I didn't tell you so you knew
yeah,
this, but I told everybody, the figurative everybody that USC was going to have this happen on defense. This was going to happen. You're going to have second half collapses. You're going to lose the bid one because of your defense, because Alex Grinch is the one that's leading that defense over there at USC. As long as Lincoln Riley is like, I don't know, he's being blackmailed. I don't know if he's in debt. I don't know what's going on. But as long as that's going on and Alex Grinch is somehow staying on the staff, that team's not winning. That
no,
team is not going to, they might make the playoff. They're not winning a playoff game with that defense. Trust me. I've seen it happen 5 years in a row. Like, or not in a row, but,
yeah,
like that team, they're not going to win. And we saw that happen against a team that isn't. Like, Colorado's good. I mean, I love Colorado. We
Yeah,
love the story. They're
yeah.
not that good.
No,
Like,
no,
they're
no, no, no.
good. They're not deep. They're not deep at
No,
all,
no. Remember,
and
the
that's the
ceiling for
problem.
me is 7 games here. Like
Exactly. Like,
that's a
they
good
have
team.
a
That's not a great team. That's an above average to good team. Like I said, it's in the middle.
they're a good team, and the
Yeah,
problem with USC is that once they and Alex Grinch in particular, no matter where he goes, this will be a problem. When you are playing a good team that has a good offense, not even a good offense, just a good, like, offensive coaching staff, Alex Grinch is going to fold.
oh yeah.
You know, the offense Lincoln Riley's offense can only carry them in the first half because you're gonna go up big in that first half. It's almost like 2017 playoff against Georgia, right? You're gonna go up big in that first half, and then what's gonna happen? Halftime adjustments are
Collapse.
made.
Yeah,
The other
collapse.
team's defensive coordinator is like, "Okay, we're gonna hold this offense a little bit lower." And what does that offensive coordinator look at? "Hey, this DC doesn't know what the fuck he's doing." Like, Alex Grinch is so bad that any decent-minded OC is gonna be able to scheme against him and beat him in that second half. So, what happened? Colorado almost gets like a 21 point comeback and beats USC, like very close to beating USC and dropping how many points, 35 or whatever it was in the second half against an Allen Grinch defense with a team that was without Travis Hunter.
Yeah, and that would have made a world of a difference. I believe it. I believe it would
Travis
have.
Hunter's in that game, Colorado wins.
I, yeah,
It's just true.
and there's nothing you can say to debate that because it's like because in a one possession game, I mean Travis Hunter's worth more than one possession in any game,
Yeah.
and so that would at
And
least it would have at least gone OT.
we need to talk about that freshman receiver. I forgot his name and I feel bad about it,
Oh,
but
oh, oh, you're talking about my boy. Oh, Marion Miller, baby. Oh,
yeah,
Marion
Marion
Miller
Miller,
getting an
that
opportunity to showcase. Just, I mean, in this 7 catches for 196 yards and a touchdown in the second half.
he's
Didn't
getting
even
drafted,
play
baby.
the first half. Didn't even play the first half. I mean,
He's getting drafted, baby.
boy, can you imagine if he would have played the whole game? USC's defense would have been in trouble.
He would
I
have had
mean,
250.
he was a game changer. Him being in that game changed the whole trajectory of that offense. I don't know why
Yeah.
none of the other guys could get open or catch balls. I mean, I saw so many drop passes from Michael Harrison, the tight end, on little flare outs, like just dropping it. I mean, the halfbacks for Colorado can't catch anything. They can't catch a cold. They have stone hands, and they can't even run the ball because the offensive line is so terrible. I mean, that's the
So,
problem with Colorado is their offensive line is trash.
yeah,
But
they're terrible.
I mean, in the end, you're right. This is all about Alex Grinch not making halftime adjustments. We've seen this story before, and I think the USC is about to have a rude awakening. Um,
You know what it is, really? It's the halftime adjustments, but also Alex Grinch is a very film-heavy
oh yeah,
defensive
100%.
coordinator. Like, he's only gonna be able to really scheme against things that he's already seen and he's done his homework on. So, when Amarion Miller comes in, a receiver that he hasn't had any film on,
Yeah,
it's
you see, he
toast.
gets
He's
exposed.
burnt.
You see, he gets exposed. He's like, oh, we can do this against this guy because he's a nobody. Then boom, ends up being good. He's like, oh crap. Um, and I think that this week against Arizona, USC doesn't really have a lot to lose here. But if Arizona plays the way they did against Washington, watch out. That could be upset special. I'd be willing to probably hang some dollarinos on. Let's move on here. Notre Dame escapes Duke on the road. Duke, a lot better than we thought they were going to be this season. Very competitive team. Notre Dame wins this game in the final minute with a 30-yard run by Estime. 21-14 is your final. Riley Leonard injured on the last drive of the game, trying to will something to existence with under a minute to go for the Blue Devils. I don't know how severe the injury is, but I hear it's pretty significant. Sam Hartman showed a lot of sportsmanship going over to talking to him after the game, making sure he was okay because I think Sam Hartman knew that that game was headed to overtime if Riley Leonard had stayed in that football game. Um, does this mean Notre Dame isn't good, Zach, or does this mean that Duke at home is just one of the most dangerous teams in the country? Don't go in there.
Um, I think we're starting to see the awakening of Duke. I mean, I think that's really what we're seeing. I think this is turning into a football school as much like if that was a joke like 2 years ago, but it's like a reality now. Like they
Yeah,
might be turning into a football school. Their basketball team kind of sucks. So I'm looking at Duke football, right? And I'm especially how they're playing at home. And I think you're right. I think it's just tough to go into Duke now. I think that's a game that coaches are worried about. I mean, think about this in the year of our Lord 2023, Duke. is a football school, and Duke is a team that's giving, Notre Dame problems. And I think that that's going to be a trend for a few years. I think I don't remember his name. The coach they got over there at Duke, he is he's making things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, good for them holding on, but a bigger win for Notre Dame as they prep for USC in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
That
they're
game.
gonna get creamed, I think.
You think Notre Dame's gonna get creamed?
Yeah,
Ooh,
unfortunately.
ooh, okay, all right.
And no, I say that assuming that USC is going to play decent defense. I'm giving Alex French a little bit of credit here.
eh, we'll see how that
I
Arizona
think that
game
they
goes this
might
week.
be. I think that the reason that I think that USC might be able to scheme well against this Notre Dame team defensively is simply because Notre Dame's not as reliant on the pass game. They're obviously more reliant on that run game. Alex French is better at defending the
That's
run
true.
than he is the
That's true.
pass. We know how his secondaries
And
operate.
Mason
We know that
Cobb
they're
has
going
been
to get burned.
huge for them. The
That's
Oklahoma
true.
State transfer was huge in that
Yeah,
Colorado game late. I mean, against the
exactly.
run
He's
for
been big
sure.
for
So
them.
he's come on, and I was kind
So
of
I don't.
yeah. I think you could be right. I think it'd be strength against strength as far as offense and defense
Yeah.
goes. So that might be an advantage USC there. You could be right. I mean, I could
So we'll have
definitely
to see the Notre Dame receivers really just
yeah
feast on that
yeah.
secondary.
We'll see.
Maybe
Yeah, we'll
Sam
see.
Hartman throws for 500. Like,
I mean,
we'll
yeah. This
see.
this this this
But
really hinges on how
Estime
these
is
teams
not
look
going to
this week.
get
Yeah.
Estime is not going to get 150
No,
yards
no, no,
against
no,
that.
no shot, no shot, no shot. Now, and they've got Louisville this week, and that's not going to be easy for Notre Dame because Louisville's now looking like they're a team to be reckoned with. I'm just going to talk about two more games from last week because the rest of them are kind of chalk. The first game I want to talk to you about is Kentucky just beating the brakes off of Florida after Florida beat the brakes off of Tennessee. I mean, this. I
Ooh,
mean, I mean, we told you Florida was bad,
I
but
told you.
then they beat Tennessee at home, and Tennessee looked really bad. But now Florida goes on the road and just looks like absolute garbage can. And Kentucky is 5-0 and unranked. Um, I don't
Any
know.
given Saturday.
I don't know if they're still unranked, but they were unranked last week. Where are they at this week? They got to be
I
ranked,
think they
right?
snuck in. I think they snuck in. Yeah.
They're
I
20.
think they're
They're
top. I
20
think they're
now.
number
They're 20.
24.
They're 20.
Oh, 20.
They're 20. So went from unranked to 20, undefeated. Good for Mark Stoops and company. Getting that stuff taken care of. But I think my biggest takeaway from this game was literally just you know Florida getting a bash back to reality after a big win against Tennessee was kind of the storyline there. Anything to add to that, or is that kind of the consensus?
No. No, I mean, I think you're pretty
Um,
correct there. I would say I think Mark Stoops is doing a good job. Kentucky is on his way up.
Yeah, and then this game was also a thrill to watch. Ole Miss beats LSU 55-49. If you like points, this was the game. And a 21 point fourth quarter for the Rebels ends up upsetting LSU on their home turf. Not LSU on their home turf, but Ole Miss won at home against LSU on their home turf in the Grove. Fans stormed the field as rightfully so. Ole Miss improves to 4-1 here. Is Ole Miss getting to that point where we need to start taking them seriously, or are we still kind of too early to kind of be leaning into Ole Miss here? Because I feel like the Tulane game kind of gave me some hesitation, and then this gives me some confidence. But at the same time, like LSU in my mind was a little bit overrated. Like, what are your thoughts here?
My thoughts are your thoughts on that
Yeah.
one. I mean, I
Okay.
think that LSU was a little bit overrated. I think that LSU is a little bit overrated, but they're still a good football team. So it's like good to see Ole
Yeah.
Miss beat them. And like, I think that Ole Miss is a really good team. I'm kind of worried right now because I look at Ole Miss and how their offense is performing this year, and I'm like, why did we get Jeff Levy? I'm kind of worried about it. He might not have been as responsible for all that Ole Miss success as we thought he was. Um, or maybe he just leaves good coaching trees. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think that Ole Miss is a team that we have to start talking about a little bit, but the only reason I kind of say that I hesitate against that is because there's other great coaches in the SEC, better than Lane Kiffin. Like we saw what happened against Alabama, right? And I don't think Ole Miss wins the big games to get to that point, but if they get to the SEC championship, I also don't see them winning that. Um, they're good. They're a dark horse for sure. And like if I eat my words at the end of the season and then Ole Miss ends up being ranked top 10 after an SEC championship appearance, like I'm not gonna be mad about it.
No,
I'm
no.
probably gonna say we should maybe think of firing Jeff Lebby because I'm not a fan right now, but,
Yeah, yeah,
um, yeah, I mean, I kinda agree with you there that, like, storming the field for LSU, yes, they were ranked, like, number 5
or
preseason or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah, yeah.
um, but if you watch the games, you know LSU isn't that good,
Yeah,
so
I think Florida State made us kind of realize that early on. And Florida State, you know, with their close wins, has not been a team that I've been so confident in that 4 spot going to them as the season has progressed. But they've survived week after week, and that's all you can really ask. A team that didn't survive, and this was hilarious to me. Um, so let me paint you a picture, Zach. You're UCF. You're up 38-10 on a really bad Baylor team. You can't possibly lose, right? Well, guess what, brother? You lost 36-35. Just an absolute shocking 26 to nothing run in the fourth quarter by the Baylor Bears to just not give UCF their first Big 12 win. And I just read the tweets coming from their
uh,
Barstool Sports account was just hilarious. Like they're like, "Oh, if this is Power 5 football, we're ready. We're ready. We're up
Power
35.
5
We're up
football.
35-7. There's no
Big
way we,
12, we're
yeah,
gonna win the
whoa."
Big 12 year
Yeah.
one.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
I
it was
heard
so
all that
good. It was
shit
so
in the
good.
preseason. I
But
heard UCF fans talk all their shit in the preseason about how they were gonna steamroll Oklahoma. How we made your quarterback. We made your team what it is. I heard everything about UCF. UCF was gonna come in and win the Big 12 year one. And what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen in 2 weeks, right? So we play Texas,
oh,
then we have a bye. We get a bye week going into UCF, and we play them at home. How bad does OU beat UCF?
I mean, it's not looking good for the Golden Knights. Let's put it that way. I mean,
Because
they're going to struggle with Kansas this weekend, and I think we're going to.
Baylor's not a good football team.
Well, hey! This is the thing. This is the thing. Blake Shapen was back for the first time in 2 games this week. I mean, this
Baylor's not a good football team.
that made, but I think that made the difference though. 293 yards for him, no turnovers. You know,
Yeah,
I think that made that comeback a reality. I don't think Baylor's quarterback depth, that we saw on, like, to me, that proves that if he plays that Utah game, I think they win that game. I think if Blake Shapen was healthy for that Utah game, I think they win that game. And we're talking about Utah not having any quarterback depth earlier than this week. So I think
that's
that would have
probably true.
happened.
Yeah.
But I think that, like you said, Baylor's not a good football. I'm not saying that. I'm saying this was a monumental collapse by a newcomer that thought they had it made. And they got their shit rocked in the fourth quarter. And they were the home team. Like, you got rocked at home, dog. You didn't get rocked on the road in Waco. You got rocked at home by a team that was down by 28 points. I mean, you can't
I can't
get
wait until they
oh,
step into Norman, man. I can't wait till they
oh,
step in that
it's
palace. They lost at home to Baylor. Imagine what they're gonna do to OU in Norman. I mean, they're not gonna be able to hear their plays. They just haven't
no.
experienced that.
No,
They just
they're
have not
yeah.
experienced it.
And
Like, they're
and
not gonna be able to hear their plays.
nah,
They're
and
gonna go
that's
0 for
yeah.
15 on 3rd down.
Yeah.
Like,
It's gonna be terrible. But that kind of wraps up most of the games from last week. I'm itching to jump into this week, so let's go ahead and
yeah, let's talk some games.
fast
Make
forward
some
into
picks.
this. Um, so
Talk
so
some
what
games, make picks. Get it.
one of the games I wanted to talk about is Maryland and Ohio State. A lot of people are buying into Maryland, saying they've got a chance this week. The spread is still 20 in favor of Ohio State here. Um, should we start to think that Tua's brother can actually do something here? Because I think he's the better quarterback in this matchup for sure. But is that Maryland defense ready to contain the likes of Marvin Harrison Jr. And the running backs that Ohio State has at their disposal? Not to mention a myriad of receivers that are not Marvin Harrison Jr. but are still probably better than the DBs that Maryland has. I don't know, but part of me thinks Maryland covers this game though. Your thoughts? Not
What's
winning,
the
but
spread
covering.
again?
20.
Yeah, they cover. Um,
I don't think they
they
win. I
cover barely. I think they cover by 3. Like, they're probably gonna lose this by 17, but 20
Yeah,
is so big. Yeah, like,
yeah. I mean,
I mean, I'm not a believer. Well, I'm not a believer in what do they call him?
the
What's his name?
Terrapins. Oh,
No,
oh,
no, no. What his first
Talia,
name?
Talia.
Talia?
Yeah,
Yeah. He's good, but he's not Tua. And I mean, like,
obviously.
I don't want to compare him to his brother, but I guess I just did. But
I mean, he's.
I
I
mean,
mean, for 1400 and 64 passing yards, 13 touchdowns, and
There's listen, there's
only
a
three
reason. Yeah,
interceptions. I mean,
but there's a reason he didn't get an offer from Bama, okay? I mean, like, this kid, like, he's good.
he's
He's
good.
not
He's good.
Tua.
It's not Tua. He's good.
He's not beating Ohio State unless Ohio State just collapses.
I
So,
yeah. I mean,
I'm thinking 20 is a little too big for me. I'd probably pick them to cover that because I think that Maryland is a good football team. They're not a great football
that's
team.
what I'm
Ohio
saying.
State's a great football team.
Yeah, I'm
So,
saying 17-point win. I'm saying 17-point win Ohio
that's
State.
exactly what
I
I
mean,
think. 17
I mean 18,
is right there.
18 I can live with. I think 20 is just
Yeah.
too much. The over under here is 57. I think that probably gets smashed. I would think that this is probably a 60-point game. Probably I think you're looking at a final score of like 38 to 21, something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's probably what we're looking at here, and with probably two of those touchdowns from Maryland coming in the second half, like in the fourth quarter, like it's 38-7, and then they get two garbage time touchdowns. That's kind of where I see this game going. I like Maryland. I've always been a fan of what they did with their crash test dummy jersey concepts. I was the only one that really liked those. Um, I,
Terrible. Come on.
they were great. They were fantastic. I only use those
They're
jerseys in
terrible.
NCAA 14. They're the only jerseys I use. Um,
They're
um,
terrible.
but I don't think on the road in Columbus is not really a spot. But again, we've seen teams like Purdue go in there and win games. Who's to say Maryland's not the next Purdue to go in there and win that game? They have the tools. They have the tools at their disposal. They've got the better
Yeah.
running back. They've got the better quarterback statistically. The only thing they don't have is Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think that's going to be the difference
And
here.
Ryan Day.
And Ryan, whatever. Ryan Day can suck one. I don't like him. I think you go after an old man like Lou Holtz, you're off my good boy list. Lou
I
Holtz
kind of
is.
like I get what you mean there. Like, yeah, Lou Holtz is like a treasure, but I like how I think I would do the same thing if he said something about OU. Like, that's
but but
I'd be like,
but
"Fuck
Ohio
you,
State
old
is
man. You don't know
soft.
shit, old man."
Ohio State
I'd be
is
like, "Fuck you,
soft.
old man."
Ohio
They're like,
State
"Fuck
is
you, old
soft.
man. You don't know shit, old man.
The
This is
only
why
reason
you never beat Ohio State, you fuckhead." That's what I
that
like. I would have said the same thing if I was an OU fan, or like as an OU fan, if
but
he said
we
something about
know,
OU.
but we know, Zach, that the only reason Ohio State lost to Notre Dame is because Notre Dame only had 10 guys on the field on that last play. Okay, if they had that 11th guy on the field, that never happens. He doesn't get past the goal line. You see how close he
You
was
sound like
with
a
10
Twitter fan.
guys. You see how close he was to not breaking the plane with 10 guys on the field. All you needed was that one
You
extra
sound
guy to
like
come in there and hit him, and that game would have been toast. But no, I think that Ohio State takes care of business. I just don't think they win by 20. I think this is going to be a closer game than that, and what that means I don't know. But it's going to be closer than 20 points on the scoreboard. So good luck to the
yeah.
Terrapins. They're going to need it. Another game at 11 o'clock tonight, itching to get ready to rumble, is Missouri and LSU, baby. I mean, we're down in Columbia, Missouri for the Battle of the Tigers, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm picking Missouri to win this game, baby. I'm on.
Oh fuck.
I'm all in. I'm all in. Brady Cook's
Oh
the next
fuck.
coming
Oh fuck.
of Baker Mayfield. I believe it. Look. To be honest,
Don't say that to me.
to be honest,
Take
here's
that
what.
shit back.
No, to be honest, here's what I think. I think Missouri's winning this game, and I'll tell you why. Look, LSU's a 4-point favorite. They just came off losing a really emotional game to Ole Miss, and the thing is I believe in Luther Burden the third. I believe in Luther. I think he is
Ooh.
the second best wide receiver behind Andrell Anthony. I think Andrell Anthony is better than Marvin Harrison Jr. I'll go ahead and say it. I don't care. I think that Andrew Anthony is a more complete player, and I think he's a better draft prospect than Marvin Harrison Jr. You can say all you want about Marvin Harrison Jr., but where was he when Ohio State needed him the most? Concussed and out of a football game. That is not something you can have when you're trying to win football games. Quit getting your head banged around and get back in that game, get some smelling salts, and lie to the training staff. I mean, you want
Facts.
to,
Facts.
you want to. I mean, if he was in that game, they never would have lost that game to Georgia. I'll say it, or whoever they were playing. I
Okay.
think it was Georgia. Um,
I like the energy. Um, I think I would agree with you that I think Andrew Anthony is the best receiver in college football. 5 weeks in, yes, he is the
yes.
best receiver in college football. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is obviously number two, and he's probably number one. So like,
All right. Whatever.
I like the energy.
Whatever. He's just all
And
flash.
what and
17
I
catches,
mean, let's not
336
forget
yards.
about
Get
Xavier
fucked.
Worthy. Let's not forget about Xavier Worthy.
Xavier
Like that
Worthy is
man's
just a
he's
track
still
star.
that
He
man.
can't. He's just a track star. He's not a receiver. He's just a track guy. He's just a track guy.
He's
You
a track
saw him.
guy.
You saw
Okay.
he I can already tell you the first game from tomorrow. It's going to be a screen pass to Xavier Worthy on the outside, just like it was 2 years ago, and he's going to try to house it for 80 yards again. But instead, it'll be Stutzman sticking him with a hit stick on the edge.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I mean,
Xavier Worthy is a track star. He's running
uh,
backwards this year.
yeah,
He's not going anywhere in the Red River
yeah.
Shootout.
I mean,
Horns down.
he's still probably a second round pick, but I mean, he's not. He's not. No, he's not him. He's not Andrell
Are they
Anthony.
gonna find me?
What?
Is Twitch or anyone gonna find me for this?
I don't think so. I think you're good. I think
Like,
I think you're
am I
good.
good? Are they
I
gonna
think I
find me? Are
think
they soft? Are they
I
this
think you're good.
soft?
Soft, very soft. Um, I think
Charming.
yeah, I showed the movie Midsummer on my streams. I think we're good. And that movie has full vaginal frontal nudity, so I think we're good. I should have definitely got banned for that. So didn't happen. Um, but uh,
Uh, well,
but
we need to make some picks here before this Thursday night
yeah.
game.
I guess that you're taking LSU to beat Missouri.
I'm taking LSU to beat
Yeah,
Missouri.
okay, okay.
What's the spread?
It's 4. LSU by 4.
Yeah, I'm taking LSU.
Okay, okay.
I'll put that as a lock of the week
Oh
if you want to
God.
talk about
Okay.
it.
All right. Other games going on here. Not really seeing a lot of Kentucky plays Georgia in Athens. UGA only a 14.5 favorite against the Wildcats. Both these teams are undefeated. Um, your thoughts?
I I mean, obviously Georgia's gonna win this football game.
Yeah.
Not by a lot.
Yeah, I think 14's kind of it. I think that's
But they said the spread was 14.
and a half.
I would take Kentucky to cover that
Yeah,
by
I just don't
by the half.
by the
Like
half.
I
Yeah,
think
by the half. Yeah.
like it'll be a 14-point win for Georgia.
If you can find that spread higher than 14 and a half, slam it. I haven't found that
Yeah,
yet. Um,
and I would say I might be comfortable with a 13 and a half if
ooh, okay,
just because I think Georgia probably wins the game by 10.
okay, okay. So UCF is favored this week against Kansas because Kansas is going to be without their starting quarterback. So it's bean time, baby. Um,
Yeah,
are
Bean
we rolling
Green.
with the Jayhawks here, even though they are 2-point
Rock Chalk
underdogs at home?
Jayhawk baby.
All right,
Rock Chalk Jayhawk baby. They're winning this football game.
that's all you need to
Bean is that man.
know. Louisville, Notre Dame. Notre Dame 6.5-point favorites on the road against Louisville. Your thoughts?
I like the spread. I think I take it. I think Notre Dame wins by 14, possibly 21. I think Louisville is good. I think they're going to get exposed, and they're not a top 25 team. They're a good team. They're not top 25, and I think they're going to get exposed.
I'll give you that. Arkansas, Ole Miss, Mississippi, a 11.5-point favorite at home against the Razorbacks, who have been in a lot of games but not been able to finish. Do they finish this week?
No, I think Lane Kiffin's going to finish all over Arkansas, really. I just think that Ole Miss, their offense is too much for the Arkansas defense to handle. I mean, I don't know how else to put it other than I think that Ole Miss is just an offensive powerhouse, and they win this game.
Here's an interesting game that no one's going to talk about but us because we're sickos. But Fresno State goes on the road to play Wyoming, who has Austin Peasley back healthy after last week. We know how tough this team is to play up there in Wyoming. Fresno State's only a 6-point favorite going into this game. I like
Oh
Wyoming
yeah,
to win this
I
straight
like
up.
Wyoming and Laramie. Yeah,
Yeah,
give me Wyoming.
yeah, yeah. I really like that. Here's one that
They
I
win this game.
yeah
Like
here,
they straight up win this game.
yeah. This is a game that I would stay away from. You couldn't pay me $10,000 to make a bet on this game. Texas Tech is a 1-point favorite on the road against Baylor. Um, I just I don't did Texas Tech
That game's
fans.
gonna be terrible.
Texas Tech fans, did you see yourselves here? Because I know you didn't. After all the media hype, I didn't think you would be sitting here tied in
Wait,
record.
wait. Do we get a moment to say we told you so?
Yeah, but we told you so. We told you so. We,
We
we,
told you
we,
what
we
was gonna
told you you were
happen.
getting lied to. You see these crypto scams where they pump things up and then they just pull the rug from underneath you. Just a good pump and dump. That's what this was for Texas Tech fans. They were like, go ahead and put all your money into St0ner Sports Books for your Texas Tech Red Raiders to make the college football playoff. They're the dark horse. And then what they do? They pulled the rug right from under you.
And
And
what was
Wyoming
it
said,
last week we got the graphic?
sorry. What?
We got the graphic last week. I think that was like Texas Tech has been eliminated from the college
Yeah,
football
yeah, it's
playoff.
yeah, done. Yeah, done. Um, I look, I, with Blake Shapen being back, do I take Baylor to win this game? I don't know. Again, Baylor not a great team. Texas Tech has the weapons to make games interesting. I should know as an Oregon fan. I was sweating that game out. Um, they've lost some close games. They could realistically be 4-1 if you really want to go that route. They could have beat Oregon. They could have beat Wyoming. It just didn't happen. Um, but you could say the same about Baylor. They could have beat Utah without Blake Shapen, and sure enough, they probably could have beat Texas State if they would have had their heads screwed on right. Um, but I mean, I just wouldn't bet on this game. I can't pick this game. I'm gonna watch it because I'm a sick fuck. But
Yeah,
I just don't know if I feel confident enough to make a pick either way. Um, and that leads us to the last game we're going to talk about for this week. USC and Arizona. USC a 21.5 point favorite against the Wildcats. And I'm picking the Wildcats to cover this one on the road in the Coliseum. Because, again, Lincoln Riley only covers the spread 43% of the time as a head coach. And I think that you could see USC winning by 20, but they ain't winning by more than 3 touchdowns.
facts.
This Arizona defense is good. I don't think you know this, but this defense is good. Um, they're not great. I mean, but this is a three
They're
and
better
two
than USC's
Arizona
defense.
team. And their 2 losses have been quality loss. Yeah, Mississippi State's not a quality loss, but it was only a 7 point loss. Um, I mean, they only beat Stanford by 1, which is kind of concerning. But those teams are kind of identical. You only lost to Washington by 7, and if that's any indication of how up you can play a team, then Arizona's going to be up for this game. And we've seen some late night sneakers. I mean, we saw USC against Arizona State snuck on by. We've seen USC against Colorado snuck on by. This might be another game where USC only wins this by 7 or 10 points because they're just the better team talent wise. But Arizona is going to be ready to play this game. And you know, as bad as their offense has been when they talk about the Wildcats, the defense has been able to hang them in a lot of games. So we'll see how up to the task they are with Caleb Williams. But it should be more than an interesting game to watch to cap your night off for this upcoming week. And that leaves us with this, Zach, OU Texas. We're going to dive into it right now before we get into who drank the Kool-Aid here. Um, Look, brother. Um, Texas is a 5 point favorite, and I would not expect anything less considering the resume. But I'm sorry, but the road ends here, Longhorn fans. I'm just sorry. I'm sorry. This is where it ends. This OU team is for real. I think that when Joel Klatt today said that Dylan Gabriel doesn't make a 40 point difference in a game, I think that's you're misspeaking, Joel, because he does make a 40 point difference. And even when Zach said, you know, well, he still would have lost 35-21, I said, that's fine. But you scored 21 more points than you had. They scored 14 less points than they did. That's a 42 point difference. I think that he is good enough to make up that 40 points. And I think that um, if you look at that game last year, Zach, there's no way you can tell me that Dylan Gabriel doesn't possibly end up even winning that game. Because talk about how many 3-and-outs OU had. Couldn't move the ball worth a dang, which means Texas had like 15 or 16 possessions, which would not happen even if you had a drive last 2 or 3 minutes off the game clock, which OU couldn't do. And I think that this year is different. I think that you look at a Texas team that has not played up to snuff against several opponents, and I think as a Texas fan, you should be concerned. I mean, look at Wyoming. Sure, you won it by 21, but that game was tied 10-10 heading into the fourth, and Peasley didn't play the fourth quarter, and he'd played the whole game up until that point. And that's their best quarterback they've got, and that's one of their best players on that roster. Like, sure, you beat the tar out of Baylor, and you took care of business against Kansas, but we knew Kansas wasn't going to give you trouble this year. They're just not that team. and especially having to travel or not having to travel made that a lot easier for you. And to be honest, you don't have much contest after that. You have Kansas State, 3 weeks after this Saturday, and you've got I can't even say the last three, TCU, Iowa State, and Texas Tech, are going to be even a problem for Texas at all. So this is where it stops. And you'll have another chance in the Big 12 championship game to right your wrongs, but not this week. No,
Yeah.
not this week. I think Oklahoma gets it done. They creep into the top 10. Texas drops to like 8, and you have Texas at 8, OU at like 9. Maybe swap them.
Mm.
I mean, I
If
don't think
OU wins this game, OU's number 5. If OU
I,
wins this game,
if I think it's I don't know. I
they're
still don't think
ranked number 3.
I still don't think they're
OU's
gonna love them
undefeated.
enough. I
They're
don't
number
think they're
5.
gonna love them enough.
If
I
if Texas is ranked ahead of OU after OU wins,
It's
I
gonna
will
happen.
personally
It's gonna
shoot
happen.
every AP voter
It's
in
gonna
the head.
happen. Because think about it. Think about who's in front of them. Just think about this. So Ohio State would still be in front of you. Florida State would still be in front of you. Penn State would still be in front of you. Washington and Oregon and USC would all still be in front of you. If Notre Dame wins convincingly, they could still be in front of you. I mean, if Texas loses this game, they drop down to 8, right? 8 or 9. OU probably up to 10. You would still have to jump Notre Dame and Alabama to be 10. And I don't know if
How would we not How would we not jump Alabama?
yeah, I think you would jump Alabama. You might jump Notre Dame too, but you would still be 10 and they would be 9, is what I'm saying.
I don't think that's true because none of those teams above OU would have a win against number 3.
Well, Florida State.
Florida State,
I mean,
maybe. Like, I think Florida
I
State's
mean,
number 4 and OU's number 5. Like,
I mean,
I don't see how you could justify any team that's not Florida State, Ohio State, Michigan, and Georgia. Like, I don't know how you can justify any teams other than them. Maybe Oregon. Like, any teams other than that
I
being
mean,
ranked higher than OU
I think
if OU beats Texas,
it's
especially
just
if we
because they're
beat Texas by
undefeated.
a lot.
It's just because they're undefeated, and obviously things will change, right? Like in 2 weeks that'll change. But I think that as far as Texas losing this week to OU, I don't think it puts OU above them in the rankings. I just don't think it does, which is fucked up. I understand that, and I understand this isn't BCS bullshit. But I mean, I'm telling you that there would be no justification for OU to be higher than Texas, considering what they have in front of them. And I just don't think they would drop them that far. That's the problem. It's not because I don't think it should happen. It's because I don't think they'll drop Texas that far. You don't lose to a number 12 team in the country as number 3 and drop out of the top 10. I just don't see that happening. It didn't happen to LSU. I mean, like, and Florida State wasn't even ranked. Like that's
I just
that.
think there were so many questions still at the beginning of the season, though. Like, I think if
But
Texas
that
loses to OU
But
here,
that's
I
proof,
100%
though.
expect
But
them to drop to
that's
number
just
10.
proof, though. That's what I'm saying. It's just proof that they won't drop them that far. Like they'll drop them,
I
but
I
I
think
just
they'll drop to number 10.
if they do, then OU will be 9, and I can live with that.
I think OU will be higher than that.
I don't know. I mean, I guess.
I
I
just
mean,
don't know
strength of schedule wise, you might have a point here. I mean, Ohio State again. They have the quality win over Notre Dame, so that's kind of you're not going to be in front of them. Oregon doesn't really have. I guess you're kind of right. We don't really have a statement win yet. I guess the statement win would be Colorado, but we knew they were going to stomp Colorado. I don't think that was. It was maybe a surprise to some people, but it wasn't to me. I was a little nervous because the defense looked so bad against Texas Tech, but I still think that you're looking at a team that deserves it, that doesn't deserve to be below OU if they beat Texas.
Mhm.
Washington, same thing. They haven't really beat anybody, but they haven't lost. Penn State, again, same kind of thing. They kind of squeaked by, but like they've taken care of business for the most part. Um, I mean, I could see Texas dropping to 10. I mean, which means Notre Dame would have to move down to 11, even with a win over Louisville, which they're ranked. So I mean, that kind of hinges on how Notre Dame plays this week, I think, because if Notre Dame wins convincingly against Louisville, you might not jump them. They might be 9 and you might be 10,
There
but
there's no world.
Texas would have to be 11. And I don't know if I mean, they could drop to 15, I guess. You could drop them to 15. Texas could drop to 15. I mean, you still have undefeated teams in the 20s right now, which Again, that causes
I'm
problems, but there's no way you're
I'm
gonna drop
very
them that
confident.
low. I
I'm
mean,
very confident if
logistic.
OU wins, they're top 5. Like, they just look good enough. That
If
you give them a win like Texas, they look good enough that you're like, "Okay, yeah, top
yeah,
5 team."
I guess we'll see what happens. I gotta win the game first. Gotta win the
Let's
game first. Um,
let's make these picks so we
yeah,
can
go ahead and
get
make
out of
these
here. I
picks.
got
Got 10
I
minutes,
got my
so
picks ready.
okay, go ahead,
Yeah.
rattle them off for me.
So I typed them up here. As we were going over games, I
Perfect,
was making my picks.
perfect.
So I got obviously OU's winning and beating Texas.
Gotcha.
That's pick number 1. That's lock of the week number 1.
Lock of the week, baby.
Because you
And
know what? I'm confident in my team and I ride with my Sooners. That's what I do. I'd put
and
10,000 on them. And listen,
say wait, what'd you say?
how much money do I got?
That's what I'm looking at right now. Let me pull it up. Uh, After last week, you only lost one game last week. Which one was it? It was the second one. You lost $2, so you have $11 to work with, right? Am
Oh
I wait,
shit.
right? Let's see. 5, 7, 10. No, you have $12 to work. So you can put like 7 on this one and still be kind of okay.
Let's do it.
Okay,
7.
so
I'm doing 7 on OU beating Texas. I'll do
okay,
$1 on the rest because I'm that
okay,
confident.
okay. Hey, I'll give you that. So what are your other
6 picks,
picks?
right?
Yeah, so you got 5 left.
LSU's beating Missouri.
Okay, dollar there.
Kentucky is covering against Georgia.
Okay, I like that. I like the Kentucky pick. We got
Wyoming,
Kentucky. There we go.
Wyoming's beating Tech.
Beating Fresno State. I like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Fresno State. I don't know why I said Tech.
You're good. But they did beat Tech, so you're not
Um,
wrong.
yeah.
uh,
Um,
who else?
Arizona.
Arizona covering against stinking Lincoln.
Yep. And then finally, I got Ole Miss over Arkansas.
Ole Miss over Arkansas by 11 and a half. He likes that one as well. So those are your pick arenos. And print that screen. All right. Well there's that. And obviously, like I said, you've got 13 to work with. So if you parlay these, you're looking at you're looking at $634 if you can sweep it, baby. Um. So yeah, I like your odds there. I'll go ahead and rattle my picks off here. Um. I'm also
You better
going with
take that Missouri pick. You
so
better take that Missouri.
so since I'm not counting my games last week, even though I went 5-1, I'm still working with the same amount as last week. So we're gonna put the same numbers on some of these games. My most confident game is gonna be this OU game. I have to put my money where my mouth is. If I think they're winning the national championship, they've got to win this game. So let me put 100 on the big boys to get it done against Texas in the Cotton Bowl. Um, I got 2 games that I'm putting $30 on. I am putting $30 on. Oh, let's go ahead and do North Carolina minus 9.5 against Syracuse. I like the Tar Heels to take care of business against the Orangemen. Um, Give me $30 there. My other $30 is gonna go on. You know what? I'm As much as I love to bash them, I'm gonna put my faith in the Golden Knights of UCF to beat Kansas with their backup quarterback in. I don't think Kansas is gonna be able to handle the comeback if they need to make one against the Golden Knights. So give me $30 in favor of UCF to cover the 1.5. That spreads down to 1.5. It opened at 5 and it's down to 1.5 after Kansas announced that their starting quarterback will not be playing. So those and the rest are $50 games. So give me $50 on Notre Dame to cover. I like the Golden Domers to get it done on the road in Louisville against the Cardinals. So give me 50 big ones on that. Give me oh boy. The more I look at that game, I'm gonna stay away. Give me Iowa minus 2.5 against Purdue. Give me Iowa to cover against the Boilermakers. Um, we'll do that one. Got one more to pick here. My last one that I'm gonna pick is Washington State less the 3.5 against the UCLA Bruins. It's begging me to take it. I'm gonna take it and hope that the Cougars don't let me down. Um, so out of the money I've got, I'll solidify that parlay for you guys. 130, 160, 210, so 310. If you parlay these with $310 at your disposal, you're looking at a $14,000 697 win for y'all. So that's good news. Good news, everyone. And that is it for the picks. Let's quickly get into who's drinking the Kool-Aid, and I've got it right here, folks. Guess who's drinking the Kool-Aid? It is gonna be this man, this myth, this legend. Kool-Aid time. No. Don't do this to me.
You know I want some Kool-Aid. Yeah. Shut the love, bro. Drink the Kool-Aid. It ain't the end, baby. It's a new day. Future's so bright, I bought some new shades. Toast that bottoms up. Drink the Kool-Aid.
Yep, it's at @les_humble_teej with the who's drinking all the Kool-Aid he is, because he says, usually I'm a ball of nerves during Texas OU week, but just legit, I don't see a path to victory for OU. I'm not stressed at all. He's drinking the Kool-Aid, right? There's no way that there's not a path here.
I think it's very reasonable for Texas fans to think that they are going to win this game. I have no problem with it. Geez, you're like dark.
It's all right. They can't see me anyways.
All right. But I think it's perfectly reasonable that Texas fans think that their team's going to win this game. Texas has a good team. It is unreasonable to think that OU has no path to victory, and to 100% certainty that Texas is going to win this game is crazy. Listen, if Sark beats us 49-0 again, I'll talk about it. We'll talk about some uncomfortable situations and some bad uncomfortable conversations that are going to have to be had. Because I can't handle that again. So I think it's unreasonable to think that there is no path for victory. Obviously, this is a better OU team. To think that this team's going to score 0 points is kind of wild. To think that the Texas team is going to be able to score 49 unanswered this year is pretty wild.
I mean, do you want to hear his
I
explanation?
hate that he's that. I just hate that he's that confident. Is my problem.
And here's the explanation. He says, "I'm not sure I've ever felt quite this confident heading into an OU game. Last year, I knew OU was bad, but I didn't know if we were good. Back in the glory days, Texas was great, but OU was also great. This year, I feel like Texas has the talent and the coaching and has played in bigger games. That's a lot to overcome. Not impossible, obviously, because anything can happen in a rivalry game, but I don't see it happening for OU. I do expect to see them, though, for a rematch in the Big 12 championship." Now, here's the problem I have with that first statement is he says, last year I knew OU was bad. Did you, though? Because I don't think you knew how bad it was going to be without Dylan Gabriel being on the field. I didn't think Davis Bevell was going to be ungodly terrible. Okay, my own mind could not.
He might have had
the
worst game ever.
It might be the worst game I've ever seen by anybody in an OU jersey in my life. And the fact that Nick Evers didn't really get a shot and when he did, just went 1 of 3 with -2 passing yards, and then we didn't even get to see General Booty take a snap. I was irate. I mean, the fact that Jeff Lebby did not have the confidence in his quarterback depth to even put a decent player on the field is just I mean, you had Eric Gray throwing a pass that got picked off over the middle right into the chest of a Texas linebacker on the most promising drive of the game. And once that happened, I was like, nope, there goes any
Brother,
chance at
we were
points.
trying any and
Any
everything.
chance at points went out the window when that happened. So there's no way this dude was like going into the game last year. I knew we were going to just absolutely kill them. No, there's no way you would have known. OU fans didn't even know. But by the end of the first half, they were like, "Yeah, this is not great." like maybe Dylan Gabriel does bring something to this offense. It might not be a lot, but I think that
Something.
right it would have you wouldn't have gone scoreless. You wouldn't have gone
Well, brother,
scoreless.
there are high school quarterbacks that would have done better than Davis
Yeah.
Bell.
So yes, at less humble Teej, you are drinking the Kool-Aid, and with that, we bid you adieu from the dark cave that is my studio now as the sun has set. Zach is off to watch Thursday night football. We will be tuned into everything going on Saturday. We'll be conversing throughout. I know we'll be glued to our TVs. No Stoner Sports Radio this weekend, though. I have a busy one as I have a bachelor party to go to, so I will not be doing any play-by-play for college football on Saturday.
A lot of football,
I'll be
I bet,
spending my night at Mahogany Steakhouse and maybe Edna's afterwards. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens if you see me come by.
See where the night takes you.
Yeah, we'll see when I gotta come by, say hi. Congratulate the man. I'll point you in his direction if you find me. Any last words before we get out of here? I know you have something to say.
Fuck Texas.
There you go. And have a good one, all. And we'll have episode 49 for you next week.
2 more words.
Boomer
Sooner.
There you go. And you heard it here. It's happening. Texas going down this weekend. For St0ner Sports Radio, I am Will Warner. That is Zach Huffman. And we will see you next time. Keep a stick on the ice.